Welcome back. Let's jump right into for each object indexed. And if this is your first time here, this is the Ramda Deep Dive Season 2, a follow-up to a previous series by someone else that was unfinished. Um, so I'll just delete all this stuff from the previous example, clear my console. And for each object index is similar to for each in a lot of ways. The type signature is a little different than anything we've seen before. It's a bit more strict. So let's start with the description first. So we iterate over an input object, not an array, but an object, calling the provided function for each key and value in the object, right? So instead of an array, like for each, that calls a function on each item or element in the array, this one is going to uh, call a function and pass the key and value into the function, the callback function. So the function receives three arguments: the value, the key, and the object, right? So if we look at the signature here, uh, this bit, trying to highlight, this bit right here is the function. So you're passing an object. So the first thing in the object is going to be the value. And that's strange because you would think it's a key value pair. The first thing would be the key, but it's not. It's the value that comes first. And then the string is the key because an object in JavaScript, the key has to be a string. So you don't know what the value is going to be. It could be anything. It could be a function, an array, a number, but the key is always going to be a string. And then the third object or third argument that you pass in is the object. And the object here is, any object, but it's a string map. And so you can think of an object as a map where the keys are all strings. I mean, that's what it is. But there, Ramda apparently is referring to this as a map, a string map. So you can't just pass in anything. You can't pass in a map with like functions as the key and another function as the value or something like that. That wouldn't work. Um, and then it returns anything. It says any. It's not a star. It's not a B. In this case, they decided to use the word any, and I think that's because when you use for each, the function that you pass in is generally a side effect. So you're not returning anything. You're doing something. So they use the word any with the capital A. And then the second argument you pass in is the object that you're wanting to loop over and do something for each item in the for each key value pair in the object. And then it returns, well, it doesn't say it here, but it returns the original object that you passed in, just like for each returns the original array you pass in. Um, so it is kind of cool that you could, I'm sure you can map over an object too. We haven't got to the M's yet. But in JavaScript, if you want to loop over an object, you got to kind of turn it into an array first, and then loop over that, and then turn it back into an object. Um, and I don't see why you would need to do this a whole lot, but I'm sure there's reasons. Uh, so let's log something. Um, we don't need log because we'll probably log. So let's make a callback function first. I'll just call it fn, and it's going to receive the value and the key, not the key and the value, but the value and the key for each um, key value pair in the object, right? And then it's going to take the object called obj, and then we got to do something. Let's just log it, and Hmm. Trying to think what to do. I mean, we could just say did the backticks and say value. Well, let's do it in the order that we would probably want it. We could say key equals the key and value, string value. I said equals, but it's colon and the key. Did I miss something? No, I did. What am I doing here? That's backtick. Oh, I closed it here. There we go. So then we could just call r dot for each object indexed and pass in the function and then pass in the object. We need an object though. Um, just in case we need it again, I'll just make a simple object called obj and we'll say name John. We say first, last, oops, doe, and then we'll do like age 32. Oh, I didn't pass in the object. Save that, run it. What did I do? Okay, so anyway, this is supposed to be value. I just noticed that. Oh, and I made this function curried. I need to call it like that. Did I get anything? Yeah, I'm not doing anything with the object. Okay, let me think about this. What am I doing? I don't need to pass in the object here. Then I can call it all together at one time. There we go. The key first. Okay. Yeah, key first, value John, key last, value Doe, key age, value 32. Yeah. So, you're just running a callback function on each key value pair, doing whatever you want to do with it, and then passing the data. And then if we log this whole function, clear that. Yeah, and we pass or we return the original object. So I guess, if you wanted to pipe something, um, and then you wanted to log a bunch of things in the array and then pass the array back into or along to the next function, is like it reminds me a lot of tap. Um, I don't know if we've looked at tap or if it was in the first one, and I'm just gonna, we'll get to the T's, but there's this function in Ramda called r.tap, and what it does is it takes a function like log, and then yeah, that's it. It just takes a function, right? And then if you had a pipe, uh, like this, or not pipe, or let's do flow. We did that earlier. This is a perfect example for it because I want to take one, two, three, or actually, let's take one number, um, two, and then r dot add 4, and then I will just one more. I'll just like r dot multiply 3, right? And then just get rid of this. Oh, I think needs to be an array. Yeah, right. So we get 18. But like, what if we wanted to see, what if we wanted to like debug this a little bit? So that's the first argument, and then we've got the array. We could use r dot tap and log and throw it in the pipe, right? And then, so if we do that, like it logs 2, which is the value that we're passing into I said pipe, but it's like the flow function. We're passing 2 into r dot tap log, and then like we could log each step. And then, so you can like, when think of tap, like, and they probably named it like that, like this for this reason. If you think of a pipe, you can like tap into the pipe, like make a little hole, look inside of it, and see the value at that point in the pipe, or in the flow in this example. And to me, that's a lot like what this does, because not only does it allow you to console log, but it also passes that value out unchanged. So again, it's like the identity function with a side effect. So the only really difference between tap and for each, or for each object indexed, is that it's iterating over a list or an object, whereas tap would just operate on one value, or it would show like the whole list at one time as one value. It doesn't step through each item in the list. But I think tap and for each object indexed are all very similar in that regard. Um, so I think that's about all we can say about that one. Um, just to look at this, yeah, there's nothing new here. It's the function to invoke. It takes a value key and object, and it returns the original object. So yeah, so that's for each object indexed. And the next one we'll look for is from pairs, and then we'll be done with the Fs. And we'll also look at two pairs and pair in the next video. So thanks for spending your time with me. Tell a friend, and I'll see you in the next video.